इंटरनेशनल पॉप स्टार फरारी का सफर काफी दिलचस्प रह चुका है। यूनिवर्सिटी गई थी फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट बनने के लिए, लेकिन तकदीर ने कुछ और ही सोचा था। आज वो कनाडा की उभरती हुई फनकारों में से एक हैं। पिछले साल अनोखी मैगजीन ने उनको सबसे प्रॉमिसिंग परफॉर्मर का खिताब भी दिया था। आजकल वो सोशल वर्क में भी मसरूफ रहती हैं। आए मिलते हैं आज के गेस्ट से फरारी।
So Nazreen, हमारे स्टूडियो में welcome करिए the hot and sizzling and of course very talented Farahri. Farahri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It is truly an honor. First of all, we want to ask you, you had sort of an unusual start. You started off as a physiotherapist, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So how did singing come into the picture?
Well, singing is something I always wanted to do. Like from when I was very young, I taught myself how to sing with some of my favorite artists, and I would watch music videos and dance all around the house and be this little entertainer. But parents and culture and everything, and it's like do school, and I really liked school as well and sports, so I was pretty all-rounded. So I definitely chose to go to university, get a degree, and the thing that made the most sense was physiotherapy, because when you at that point when you graduated, you could have a professional degree, have a good income, and at the same time I love the health sciences, wellness and promotion, and so it just made so much sense.
Nice.
So I graduated with my physiotherapy degree, and I moved to Toronto, and I thought what a perfect time to launch or at least try my music career.
Yeah.
So, right now I'm juggling both, but just slowly.
So you are practicing physiotherapy?
Yeah, not too much anymore, but it's hard to let go of certain patients.
So at what point does the realization sort of settle in that I can actually make a career out of this? Or has that even settled in as yet?
Yeah, you know what, it is. Like, I've been really blessed, like, right from the beginning with the whole music thing, and, it's been growing steadily, and there's still so much more to come and so much more to look forward to, but I've been really blessed so far. And as stressful as it is sometimes, and as hard as difficult as the industry is sometimes, I can totally see myself doing this forever.
Yes. Now, what I want to ask you is, you are a physiotherapist, and like you said, you're still practicing. But how does life change after you become an international star? What's changed for you?
A lot. I can't really just walk out of the house anymore with my sweatpants or anything. Like, you have to make sure you look proper all the time. It's very hectic. Very hectic. Like, you're going from here to there. Like, just last night I was recording almost all night and had to get up early today, and it's been like that for like 3 weeks. And and then so doing shows all the time, and then interviews and appearances and everything. So you really have to be on top of your game. Whereas if I was just doing physiotherapy, you kind of have a little bit more time to do recreational activities, social activities, can fit in a workout here or there. But somehow doing music, you have to still try to be in peak physical condition and emotional condition with very little to no time. So it's a struggle, but it's awesome. It's the best challenge I've ever had in my life.
And of course, you probably would not have taken it on unless you loved it.
Well,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like an assumption we make about everyone in the industry, that people that are doing it, they do it because they love it. I have to ask you before we go more into the career, where did the name Farahri come from?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that, because my real name is Farah.
Okay.
And when I met my manager and we were debating about stage names, to be honest, I never really thought about a stage name. As much as I'd always wanted to be like this pop star, I never really thought of a stage name. I just figured Farah.
You just assumed Farah, right? Yeah.
But when it came time to choosing, I was like, maybe we'll choose something a little more kick. And on the other hand, is the kind of artist I want to be is an extension of myself already.
Yes.
So the name Farahri is just a nickname that I had in university. A close friend of mine gave it to me, and we were just brainstorming, and it came up, and it was like, oh, that's perfect. And I love it because it's I spell it with my name in it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
With just an R-I at the end. Yeah. So it's me. It's all of me plus some. So it's like that little alter ego kind of thing.
Sort of haven't lost your identity
Exactly. So the foundation is absolutely me, just more of it.
That's awesome. I really want to ask you, I've heard a lot of your songs, seen them, and I have to say, one thing that is so apparent is there are so many cultures in all of your songs. Languages, cultures. You definitely are a fan of that. Where does that come from? Does your upbringing have anything to do with it?
Yeah, I'm of Indian background. My grandparents were born in India, and then my parents were born in Africa. So that's where the African influence came in. And I guess I was just a very diverse, multicultural kid. Like, I just liked getting into everything and learning about people and learning about languages. I learned French from a very young age. So I'm fluent in French, and I guess that kind of just spawned my love for different languages, and then through that came my love for different cultures. I had a lot of friends from the Caribbean, from the Latin community, and I love all types of music. So and that really is just me. I just love it. And so growing up, especially when it came to the Indian culture and Hindi music as well, is definitely something I wanted to incorporate if I ever were to do music. So it's really so fabulous that I'm getting to do that now. Yeah. And then incorporating the dance hall as well.
Right.
Yes.
It's just such a nice mix, I find, you know, because you have the West Indian, the East Indian, the Caribbean, and then, you know, the North American or European thing, and then you just bring it all together, throw in a little African.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so much more fun.
Oh yeah, for
I would never have wanted to be stuck in a box.
Do you still have family back in Africa?
I do.
And how do they react to sort of, because you are, you know, pretty much a Canadian product, right?
Yeah.
And for a singer from North America to be incorporating their culture into it, how do they react to it?
Oh, they love it. They think it's so, you know, they think it's so fun. I mean, everything that I've managed to incorporate, even when I mentioned my hometown of Ottawa, people are like, yeah, go Ottawa, thanks for mentioning that. Yes. Or when I went down to Jamaica for a couple shows, they're so appreciative, really, is what I find, is they're very appreciative. There's no like, oh, you're trying to do too much or anything. They're just like, you know, we genuinely love that you love our culture.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're all about it, and you're trying to promote it and bring it all together into the pop world.
And I think it's really nice to see an artist who sort of wants to know all about other cultures as well, as opposed to just embracing their own. It's kind of refreshing. I want to just come back to the cultural thing. Dance the Night Away was your first single, which was amazing, and that had sort of a reggae and a little bit of Hindi or an Indian mix to it. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that fusion?
Yeah, you know, it was the first single. And I'm sure you guys know Choclair.
Yes.
You know, big hip-hop superstar in Canada. And we were writing Dance the Night Away, and I was pretty adamant about, you know,
throwing in that
the little Hindi bridge. I'm like, even if we don't overdo it, like just a little bit in the bridge to give it some flavor.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything in the mainstream right now is pretty straightforward. And I just wanted to give it that little twist because that was always my dream. And then we brought it to Choclair, and he was so for it. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah. He wrote his verse in like 10 minutes, and it all just kind of came together. And then there's another artist on the same label, Fireline. So we also did a dance hall mix and another remix with him with a dance hall verse. And at the Inoki Awards, we performed the version with the English, the patois verse, Choclair's hip-hop verse, and then the Hindi verse. So it was so awesome to just
like a total cultural fusion.
Exactly, and it was so awesome.
How is it to work with such big names at in your first single? Overwhelming, cool. I'm assuming.
I grew up watching Choclair and being like, oh, I know his video. I think when I went to the studio the first time and he was there, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna call my sister. I'm in the studio with Choclair. And just since then, like even meeting other artists, Sean Paul, Julie Black, some of the big artists in Jamaica too. It's just like I'm getting used to it, but it's still like some of these guys, especially, you know, Elephant Man or Beanie Man. I'm like, I grew up really to you guys, so it's such an honor, and it's really cool because a lot of them are really cool.
Okay, so you just mentioned the Inoki Gala, and I think that a few minutes ago we were just talking about the fact that when it comes to the Inoki Gala, when you're a Desi Canadian entertainer, once you are at the gala, it's kind of like you've arrived. You know, there's no bigger statement to say that you are now an established performer. What was that like, performing at the gala?
It was unbelievable, absolutely fabulous. I was the opening act, and so obviously there's a lot of pressure because you have to get everything started. So I was a little bit nervous, but I was also very excited to showcase what I was about. You know, a lot of from the beginning, because I'm doing more mainstream music, everything's been kind of catered or geared towards non-South Asian fans. So this was like the first real big opportunity I had to showcase the versatility and the diversity that I wanted to bring into my music and my performance. So it was so much fun because, you know, we were talking about the Dance the Night Away version, and because it had, you know, Choclair coming out, so that really impressed them. And, you know, we had the hip hop element, and then we had the great dance hall artist Fireline, who's also on my label. And it was just such a nice fusion with the dancers and then the Indian bridge coming in. And I felt like it was a really strong start to the event, and it really encapsulated what Inoki was about, you know, being unique and being in the mainstream as a South Asian person. Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I thought, you know, I was really excited to showcase that, and, you know, thank God everything went so well.
Nice.
Met some great people, and we just had a lot of fun. It was a fabulously organized event, you know, and the magazine had just come out, so, you know, people knew who I was, and then won the award, and it was just, the whole night was miraculous.
I want to talk about the awards, but before I do that, it sounds like it was a grand performance. What are some of the things that are going through your mind when you are performing, and how do you sort of warm yourself up for something like that?
You know, At the beginning, I used to get really nervous, like almost to the point where I'd get a little bit sick before the show because I would just work myself up. And then so gradually it would be like, okay, I'm nervous 2 days before. I'm nervous 1 day before. Yeah. I'm nervous 5 hours before, 3 hours
And then what
before.
happens when you hit that moment where it just starts?
When the music starts and I start singing, I'm a different person. All the stress and the worries go away. And the best way I can describe it is like performing for me is like an addiction. It's something that I crave and I love, and just getting lost in that moment, and especially if the crowd has a lot of energy, and even if they don't, I'll get them to have energy.
Right, yeah.
So it's my favorite thing to do. I love it.
I'm just going to ask a question which is slightly off key from the rest of the interview. As a performer, what are you most insecure about?
Ooh. Well, there's lots of difficulties when you're performing. I mean, one is if you don't have an energetic crowd.
Yeah.
And especially because the kind of music I'm doing right now is very high energy. So when there's sometimes where you end up at an event where, you know, they're expecting something different, they're expecting something kind of low key, and I come up like, rah, rah, rah. Yeah. Let's have some fun. But I've been so lucky that I've been able to get the crowds involved, even if they weren't necessarily initially. So that's one thing to worry about sometimes. Another thing is, like, you know, when you're dancing and singing, obviously that's very difficult. So I sometimes worry about forgetting my choreography. I'd say that's probably my biggest concern sometimes. I prefer to just wing it. Yeah. I love learning choreography and going through the rehearsals and everything. I love it because I love to dance as well. But when it comes time to showtime, I'm just like, oh God, I hope I don't forget any moves. And
well, it's hard. I mean, I've never done it, but I would imagine that singing and dancing together is
and just keeping your breath, you know,
tough. That as well.
And then working on the facial expressions. There's so much to do as a performer, you know.
And if you have choreography for several songs that you're doing in a whole set, and you haven't had months to rehearse, right? And I'm talking about the hectic schedule. Sometimes we're learning choreography like a week before, and it's like, okay, that has to be like this. So yeah, I'd say remembering my moves is my biggest fear or insecurity.
And I just want to bring it back to the Inoki Awards. You actually received a pretty prestigious award, the Most Promising Artist and Performer for 2010. How did that feel?
Oh, it was awesome. I was right in the front row, and it was Anne-Marie Meduaki, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but she was, you know, talking about the winner and all, you know, everything that I did, and it was like, it was almost like being in a dream, because, you know, when you've dreamed of being you know, a pop star musician for your whole life, you know, awards is part of it. So you kind of imagine, what would my acceptance speech be?
Did you expect to receive the award?
No, I mean, you know, it's all up in the air, so you have a chance, but you could also not get it. So it was awesome. I was surprised, but so happy at the same time. So you go through a lot of emotions in that 30 seconds that you're allowed to kind of just absorb it. Yeah. And then, but I did have a speech prepared, and I took out my BlackBerry because I saw.
Oh, it was on your BlackBerry? Okay.
Drake style?
Okay, yeah, because I'd seen Carrie Hilson doing it at the BET Awards like 2 weeks before.
I guess everyone's doing it now?
Yeah, I guess. Because, you know, there's so many people that you absolutely need to thank, and it's really hard to remember them in that moment. And, you know, because you only get like a minute, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave anybody out, and I, you know, thanked everybody that really deserved it, because, you know, being an artist is certainly not a one-man show. It requires a very, very dedicated team, and I'm so lucky that I have that, and I just needed them to know.
So we've spoken so much about the career, right? And we never got a chance to kind of touch on the family. How are they reacting to all of this?
And I think, I think the reason that I actually got it started a little bit later in music is because they weren't too keen on it in the first place. So, you know, if I would be like, mommy, I want to be a singer, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I do it as a hobby kind of thing. Yeah. You know, it's exactly how it was, you know, play sports, go to school, which is great, because you know, honestly, I'm really glad that they pushed me to go to school and not actually do music too early, because I think, you know, some people, it's difficult to maintain a balance when you start in the industry too early. And for me, for my personal situation, this was the absolute, excuse me, for me, this was the absolute best way for it to happen, because I had that chance to mature and experience my life and party with my friends and have a lot of family time and do well in school and
just develop as a person.
Well,
right?
exactly. Become somebody that I knew I wanted to portray eventually. So it really worked out for me. now they're amazing. They came to the Inoki Gala, which was the first real show they had seen me at. Like, they'd seen me at little variety shows when I was young, and I actually was doing it as a hobby or on the side. But this was the first time, and there was like cameras and interviews, and they were just, they were kind of floored there. They didn't expect that at all the media attention, everything. And you should have seen my dad. He was like, this is my daughter.
Nice.
So really, since that moment, I guess it sunk in for them, and it became so real. And they saw that I wasn't becoming this person that was lost in this world that they were afraid of. That I was quite able to handle myself, and I had good people around me to watch out. And as difficult as it is, and my mom's always like, you don't sleep enough, you don't sleep enough. I'm like, I know. So she's constantly worried about my health, but they're so supportive now. It's really, I never expected it, but it's really important. Because when you don't have family support, I don't know how people can do it without family support. They're really all you have, especially when you don't have a lot of time with your friends or you're on the road a lot. Just to go home for half a day is so refreshing. So if they're happy about what you're doing, it's really good.
I've got one more question, and I think that, I'm sorry, I'm just going to take it.
Take it away.
As an artist and as a person, what are you looking forward to most in the next year or so?
I'm looking forward to putting out an album. Right now, as we know, the pop industry is very single-based, and people keep asking me, when's the album coming, when's the album coming? And I'm like, well, we're trying to plan it strategically, because you don't want to put it out too early, and you don't want to put it out too late, and you want it to be a representation of you. So while you're growing as an artist and getting out there, it's not necessarily the best time to, I think, to drop it right away. But I'm really looking forward to creating an album, because then that's just something like, it's like my first poster. It's on my wall, and I'm like, wow, I have a poster.
I think you've done a really good job at getting your name out there, though, and done it in such a way that when your first album does come out, everyone will know who you are.
Yeah, and so I hope I built enough of a fan base by that time so that it'll just do really well.
Absolutely.
And that would be great. But just even having the physical product, just for myself, is going to be like, oh my God, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really look forward to that. I love shooting music videos. I love it. So, you know, I'm hoping to get a few more out this year, and then just really touring. Like I said.
What's your favorite part of all of this? That's my closing question.
I'd have to say performing.
Yeah.
I'd have to say performing, because you get to do it all at the same time. You're singing, you're dancing, you're entertaining, you're working out. You know, you're getting exercise, and you know, it's just such a high. I don't have very many vices. I try to be a good person, and on stage I can just be Farahri. I can just let go of Farah. I can let go of all the stresses and everything, and I can just do what I love to do. So I would say performing for sure.
So there you go. इतना लंबा सफर है, मतलब, you know, physiotherapy से लेके being a recognized pop star, one of the products of Canada that we're really proud of, and of course something the world will be cherishing very, very soon. We're going to be talking more to Farahri when we come back after the short break. So आप कहीं ना जाइएगा, क्योंकि हम अभी गए